Web3 is a buzzword, and very often it is very hard to separate the hype from the fact. And it has many parts like blockchain, cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens, decentralized finance. Now, for many of us, all this could be jargon, but advocates say that all these things will come together to build a possible future of the internet. This future, they say, will be more fair and full of possibilities that could lead to new business models and opportunities, especially when it comes to finance. But how will this exactly happen? How will it impact you and me? And what are the factors that will need to be in place to create a sustainable alternative to what is mainstream? Hi, I'm Miloni Bhatt, and I have with me Sumit Gupta, co-founder and CEO of CoinDCX, one of India's largest crypto exchanges and the first crypto unicorn in India. It has recently announced its foray into the Web3 space. Sumit, welcome to ET Future of Money Summit.
Thank you so much, Miloni. Excited to be here.
And it's very good for us to have you to talk about CoinDCX journey as a wealth tech destination and how Web3 can shape the future of finance. So, let's dive right into it. You recently launched CoinDCX Ventures this year. The announcement was that it will focus on the Web3 ecosystem in India and globally, and it plans to invest about 100 crore rupees in startups over the next 12 months. Can you tell us what led to it? And, did you really feel that you needed to launch this initiative now because we are possibly in a crypto winter, but also that there is a funding winter?
Yeah, so just to tell you more about how this thought started and just to tell you a story, right? When we were launching CoinDCX, right, in 2018, there were not many investors who were investing in this space. So we had our own set of experiences when we were raising capital, and it was, I tell you, it was not very easy back then when you have RBI circular and so much volatility in terms of regulations in the market. So it was a difficult time. And so much so that we were almost like sort of deployed almost all of our savings to build the platform from scratch because there was no external capital and access to capital was not easy, was not solved back then. But still, we continued to build, and then the company grew. 2 years back, when we started interacting with a lot of people in this space, we realized that some of the teams are doing an incredible job. Just that because of the regulatory uncertainty in India, they were not getting access to some of the top quality investors, right? And that is where we felt that, okay, this is a journey where we ourselves have gone through, right? And we know that all of this is temporary in nature, and we as a company would want to back these high quality startups so that the ecosystem as a whole grows in size. I don't think it's one company can build the ecosystem in the country. I think one of the way that we feel we can sort of contribute to the growth of crypto and Web3 ecosystem in India is by creating sort of these, companies, solving either the infrastructure or building different use cases, who are sort of, playing a key role in this. Exchanges at one place, and then you have different protocols who are coming from India, need capital, but they don't have access to capital because foreign investors either are not even aware of these companies. Second is they are not maybe sure and confident of the regulatory market. We felt that, okay, I think that is where we want to come in. We want to step in and we want to support these companies because we were in that place, 4.5 years back. So, and you never know, like these companies can become unicorns, right? Just like how CoinDCX is in the coming years. So we felt, okay, this is something that we would want to sort of anyway wanted to work on, but we felt now that CoinDCX is at a reasonable scale and there's capital, we have a significant user base, and our ability to add value to this business is also very high, right? Because of our business. So we felt, okay, this is a good time, and that's how sort of it built up. And why now? I think I have learned that, when everyone is rushing towards something, right, and then like you don't want to be a part of that, right? I think what we believe that this is a long-term play. This space, you'll not see like hundreds of use cases, very popular, used at millions of users every day in like next 1 year. I think this is a thing that will take its own sweet time. Most important thing is to nurture the ecosystem, to give them the resources and the capital, whatever they need. And I interacted with almost like maybe more than 300 founders in this space in India in the last maybe couple of years. It's very frequent. And whenever I go out, what I've realized is that maybe 1 year back, there was a lot of noise, right? People were like, just because there's capital available, we're just building it. But I think now, and valuations were very bloated, right? Valuation very high because capital was available. But now I think the quality of founders who are building in this environment is actually better, way better. And founders and entrepreneurs are building in this space for the right reasons, not because of NFT or Web3. They understand it. They understand it. They are building the right solutions. Then they're committed to it from a long term. If someone is building in this space just for 1 year, I don't think they're going to get anything. It's like, it's a very short term approach. But we are finding good companies who are building it for the long term. And right now, they come with the right expectations. They come in for the right reasons, right? I think that is very exciting, and we would want to back those companies. And that is the reason why we felt, okay, while everyone else is not betting and putting money in these companies from India, we would want to come forward and invest in these companies so that they can become the unicorns of the future.
All right. Sumit, you said something very interesting. You said that you yourself, being part of the ecosystem, found the valuations very bloated, a year or so back. And you've also been investing in other protocols like Spheron, Taki, the router protocol, and all of that. So, what do you think of those investment decisions? Are they linked to what you're doing now, the growth of the ecosystem? And then the other part of this question is that, outside this Web3 ecosystem, is there any other space that, you're excited about?
Yeah. So for a lot of the investments that we have made, I would just like to highlight that a lot of these are high quality companies, right? As a company, we don't, independent of valuation, independent of everything, I think what we fundamentally look at, and there's a very well-defined due diligence process and framework, where we sort of rate these companies on various parameters. And then, there's a quantifiable way where we know, okay, this is a company which is investment worthy, this is a company which is not. So that framework is properly laid out and led by our ventures team. And when we sort of look at these companies, I think there are a few things that we fundamentally look at. One, are they going to be an integral part of the overall ecosystem, right? Second, which is also important, is that when these companies go big, whatever problem they are solving, how many, what is the impact of that problem, right? For example, if someone is building let's say a distributed computing platform, right? In our understanding, how critical that will be, right? In a Web3 world, maybe 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line for companies. So we look at, okay, right now people are using AWS. This is what they are paying. With this solution, they'll pay 1/10 of it. Companies will use it because it's safer, secured, trustless, and, will companies around. So we do entire due diligence. We talk to people and we feel, okay, these are very interesting things that has to be there, right? And these are the infrastructure layer. What we feel is that,
right,
any country, any industry cannot just be created out of like use cases, use cases. Like it cannot happen on day one. What is important is you have a core infrastructure layer. Once that infrastructure is built, then you will have different companies built on top of that infrastructure. And then you will have companies who are built on top of that solutions, right? So right now, a lot of companies are building phenomenal, amazing projects on the infrastructure side. That's an area we are excited about because that infrastructure foundation has to be strong. If we did not have internet, if we did not have a TCP/IP protocol, we would not be using interacting like that, right? That's a communication protocol, right? So those, even though we don't interact with all of those things in real time, that's more technical, but for any industry to grow, that infrastructure is very important, right? Second thing we are excited about is overall use cases of blockchain in the financial world. Why? Because I think financial world fundamentally has been, it touches all of our lives. And there are a lot of legacy systems that are built like 20 years back, and the rate of innovation is not as fast as it should be. And also the financial world is right now not open fundamentally. Means one financial service or product cannot talk to other financial service or product. The reason, like for example, UPI is so successful because I have a bank account, I can use any app and I can do UPI, right? When systems will start talking to each other, I think that just opens up a lot of possibilities. Why I'm very excited about DeFi in particular is because DeFi is an open system by default. Means it's like a money Lego, right? You build one, let's say you built a startup and you built a protocol, DeFi protocol. I am building something else. Actually, these two can talk to each other because that's on blockchain public. So that just opens up a lot of possibilities. And obviously, when the system is open, the rate of innovation in that is way higher than a private system, right? If 10 people are developing on it, versus millions of people are developing on something, the rate at which innovation will happen in the second part is going to be way faster. I think that's the trend we are seeing in DeFi. And I fundamentally believe in the next 5 years, we'll see, millions of users, or even like close to billion users interacting with DeFi directly or indirectly. So that's an area we're excited about. We are also seeing a lot of Web2 companies thinking of Web3 angle to their business. I think we have seen Flipkart launching, I think, what was the name? Some drops, right? And a lot of, gaming companies, I think, will move to GameFi. Artists have sort of started recognizing NFTs. So a lot of these changes are happening at the fundamental level because they believe that the values that were going to brokers or intermediaries in between, with blockchain we don't need that. So a lot of these Web2 companies will also sort of migrate and build on Web3 using blockchain as the infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these trends we are seeing, right? And we would want to be early backer of all of these trends. These are just like some of the examples, but any company that we believe is going to serve ecosystem, even if it's let's say if it's strategic, if it's of a strategic importance, or if it's a company which we believe can become $1 billion company in future, I think if it aligns with our thesis, we invest in them.
But Sumit, many are saying that you may have blockchain-based tokenized services on the web, okay, but you may not be able to entirely replace the existing infrastructure. For instance, the existing technologies or underlying technologies will exist without the web evolving into Web3. What do you think about it?
See, Web3 essentially is a sort of internet. Like right now, we can do anything on the internet, right? The difference in Web3, right, is basically users will be able to own a piece of pie there, right? Second thing is you will have full control of what you are doing right now. All of these companies, like, right now, whatever we do on the internet is monopolized by few technology giants, as we call it, right? Who sort of control what we are allowed to do, what we are not allowed to do, right? I think it's more philosophical. It's more like sort of value driven. Like there are people who feel that this is a kind of internet that we want to see, right? We want to see a future. We want to see an internet where we have more control over what we do, and companies are not playing around with our mindset or showing information. If I'm browsing on Instagram Reels, like, I am not getting influenced by a lot of these things, and this has a massive impact, right? Right now, even there are elections that can be won with just like, showing data, and, so I think there are a lot of things that can happen. I think I would be very excited to see an internet where, we have control of what we are doing, and what we are doing on the internet is not leveraged or used to manipulate us, right? Now, second thing is, of course, I agree that it is not going to be like whatever we are using, right? Everything is going to shift. It doesn't work like that, right? What happens generally is, for example, we are using let's say a website where we are writing blogs, right? Let's say that can be built on blockchain. Or if we are using an app, if it's a banking app or a financial fintech app, that can have, we might not even realize what's happening in the background, but it would be using blockchain at the very core of it, right? And for us as a users, we might not even see the difference, but that's how I think it will transition. And then at one point we will see, okay, this is, we will experience a world where whatever I was mentioning will become a reality without common people noticing a big difference, right? We will, right now we use internet, but we don't know how internet works. We just go to a website, we type the domain name, and then it just loads up the page. But when we type a domain name, that's actually a DNS, which is linked to an IP address, and that IP address is posted on a server. People don't, all of that is extracted out. I think that is what will happen in this space as well.
Yeah, so you're saying that it's a journey, it's not exactly a destination. Yeah, all right. But, you spoke about Web2 companies folding into Web3, and we're already seeing, right, like Facebook repositioned itself to Meta, Ubisoft, which was a game developer launching in-game NFTs, Twitter also built something, right? So regardless of how all of this actually works out, suppose, these legacy firms were somehow successfully disintermediated, what would stop other companies from filling this power vacuum themselves, right? And how do you safeguard against that?
See, I think just one example I can cite here is that 20 years back, there were a lot of there are a lot of companies which did not even have any presence on the internet, right? Just 20 years back. And, around that time, if a company did not have an internet strategy, they knew that they will not be relevant 10 years down the line. Like, they have to have an internet strategy and they have to come online. If they were not coming online, they would have been disrupted already, maybe by, companies like Myntra or Jabong or Swiggy, because these are technology, and technology moves really fast, right? You will not even know how it has changed like 2-3 years, but we have seen that change in our lives, right? So I think just like how companies had to adopt to an internet strategy, 10, 20 years back to stay relevant, I think companies will adopt eventually, right, sooner or later. And that is what we are seeing, where big companies like PayPal, Stripe coming onto that side. Of course, they will not go 100% all in one go, but it's a journey, right? We have seen, Facebook even rebranding, repositioning it to Meta, because they believe that's the next evolution of social interaction, which is going to be more immersive in nature, right? And yeah, I mean, like, to me, it looks like, okay, that's the next possible step, where the interactions that we are doing, it's a better thing where we can have it, with deeper experiences, right? And more sort of immersive, right? So that makes sense to me. And, Facebook, believes in that. And it might pan out in 5 years, 10 years. I don't know, right? But at least that is the shift that we are seeing. And I think more and more companies, right, will shift into this, or will start adopting one, small parts, and then, evolve their strategy also over time. But I think one of the thing that impacts this decision, or the rate at which this migration is happening, would be the regulation. So I think that once that clarity is there, because these are businesses, no business would take the risk, just do all of that. I think Facebook is at a different level, but the rate at which this migration is happening and companies adopting to Web3 use cases and having a Web3 strategy will happen a lot faster when there is sort of positive regulatory framework. But the moment it is there, I am very certain the rate at which companies will come into this is going to be even faster than what happened during the internet time, because the world is moving faster than it was 10 years back. So I think that's I fundamentally feel that's an eventual step. It will happen. Of course, there are some roadblocks and there are some challenges that we will need to sort of cross, which will take its time. But I fundamentally think that will happen. Companies will have a blockchain-based strategy. Some companies who don't adopt to it might become irrelevant, and it's a little different way of thinking, right? So I think there is enough time, and we will see that transition in the coming years.
Sumit, you spoke about how positive regulatory changes need to happen. So can you tell us about some of the regulatory changes that you think need to be addressed so that Web3 will be able to shape this future of financial services?
Some of the regulatory challenges that needs to be addressed, I think one, I've learned that technology always moves faster than the law. So I understand it's not always possible that you have a clear set of guidelines, which can, keep catching up with what's happening, because, 2 years back, we did not have NFT, and now NFT is there, right? And last year, I mean, so much happened in this space. So I think what is important, right, is to understand, I think when there is a new industry in making, right, and when, there's a policy or a law which is not sort of aligned with each other, I think the first step that needs to be done is to have a very strong sort of communication between the industry and the government or the policymakers. If that communication is not there, then both the parties are thinking from different lens, different perspective. I think that is one fundamental thing that should happen. I strongly believe that this is a space or an industry which can take India to a different level altogether. Why? Because it's a purely technological driven space, and India, in my opinion, if you look at all the data points, India is a clear powerhouse of technology, right? I don't think of, and because the rate at which the space is going, if India actually leverages it strategically and geopolitically, we will be at a different level in next 3 to 5 years, right? Because we have all the raw material or the ingredients to actually be the winner in this space globally at a global center stage. So we have all of that. I think one is strengthening this bridge. Second is, if there is any apprehension, discussing and resolving it out blocking it is not the solution, because then things will figure out a different way, right? And the objective will not be achieved, right? But I think one is identification of problem, right? There might be some challenges, of course. Everything has challenges, but how do you sort of solve that? I think is important, where industry can add a lot of value. I've also sort of mentioned in some of the tweets that industry is actually from last several years more than happy to come and do whatever is needed to make and to resolve all the concerns. I think that has to be sort of solved, where it's like a public-private partnership, right? I think that sort of model, if exchanges or the players in the country can work in solving those challenges, so that India gets all the benefit, and whatever wrong, if apprehensions are, just cut it off completely. And in fact, companies will ensure, right? And that is what you can put in the framework or guidelines. I understand building that takes time, but I think that is a evolving process. And as long as the bridge is strong, I think that can be done seamlessly and easily without much risk.
So given this background, so first of all, given the current overall market conditions, especially around crypto right now, because there's a lot of fear all across the world. That's number one. Second, the current, market conditions overall, not just crypto. All right, we're in depressed markets. There's inflation. There's all this fear of a recession in multiple economies. On top of it, when you have regulatory challenges, which absolutely is against a certain kind of technology and has been very vocal about its resistance to that kind of technology, how do you then kind of move forward? Yes, I understand that, US players want to move forward, and you say, yes, it will really propel India into the future. These are good technologies. We should talk this, that, and the other. But do you feel at some point that this is just one-sided, which is coming in from the entrepreneurial level, but it is stuck and it is not allowing movement, when it comes at the regulatory level? And is that then leading to fear within the Web3 space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a difference if government or if the media is talking positively or negatively about the industry, right? I think it makes a difference in the common entrepreneur's eyes, because they are at the surface level. They are not like as deep as we are, and they might not have access to all the information that we are, because that's our job day in, day out, right? But maybe people, entrepreneurs who are thinking of building solutions, of course it matters to them, right? Because that's how they will decide. So I think that is where a lot of I would say confusion is there, right? Which is not good for any industry to prosper. If government wants that India should win this space, India blockchain is good, then a lot of companies are building blockchain-based solutions, but it's them as well. And I have seen on the ground, really people just leaving the country and setting up base in Dubai, Singapore, just because that confusion is. So I think this is actually a problem, right? Where how, because every line that government says, whether it is possible, it's going to have a tremendous impact. It will come in news. It will have a tremendous impact on the entrepreneurs, and even affect the sentiments from a VC side, whether VCs will invest or not. So I think one is, what is the reality and what comes out, how do we sort of align that? It's also an important part. And I agree. I think that, what policy level, things come, I think that has a big impact on how fast or how slow the industry will prosper in any country. That is why I feel that India has, very strong potential to lead this, right? And I think from a regulatory perspective, I can see sort of things moving in a positive direction. If you zoom out and plot last 4 years journey, you will see things going in positive. Of course, there are volatilities from a regulatory perspective, but the technology is new, and I think it takes time. It's not very easy, right? I mean, I am still learning, every day. There's so much innovation that happens, right? And I think it can be better solved by sort of not having a bias and by being open to new technologies. Because I think all of this disruptions has happened with new technologies, right? And we have seen that in the past, right? And it's not possible that you sort of ban it and it will get banned. Like yesterday only there was a statement, right? It doesn't work that way, right? What works is you figuring out solutions and then ring fencing it, so that we get the goodness but we don't take any risks. I think that is possible even in this space. I think there's work to be done. We are constantly sort of when this 1% TDS was introduced, I've been very vocal about this is going to hurt the industry, right? Not in terms of trading volumes, that's a byproduct, but overall, the rate at which entrepreneurs will build a blockchain solution, that's going to affect that as well, right? People will move out of the country, so it has various ramifications. So I think those small things also, combined together makes a difference.
Sumit, I know you have to go, but I have quick two questions for you. What's your outlook for crypto over the next 1 or 2 years? Seeing what we are seeing right now in terms of volatility and the fear that exists.
Yeah, I think, again, this is my personal thought, and I'll tell you what I have been seeing. I think the markets might remain volatile because of the global macros, right? There is talk about Fed increasing rates by another 100 basis points end of this month. And when that happens, we have seen that generally whenever there are certain uncertainties, the capital moves from riskier assets to safe assets, right? So if that happens more and more, of course, maybe, there would be redistribution of investment, and then people might move in either, safe assets or stables or golds or some other instruments. And it might make crypto less interesting for institutions, right? Retail, I'm still seeing high enthusiasm, high excitement, but maybe for institutions because they are already maybe in losses or their public market portfolio is not performing as well. So overall, I think next 1 or 2 years, I expect a lot of high quality companies getting built up. In fact, when CoinDCX was building, we were born in the same market that we are seeing right now. So this is a journey that we have played before already, and I am seeing a lot of new companies also building with the right intent. And I'm sure when this period gets over, I think we will see very high quality companies who have spent years, or 1 or 2 years building the right thing. And then whenever the market opens up, maybe 2023, 2024, we will see all of those companies rising, right? And growing at a fast level. So I think this is a period to build, right? And I'm not as excited about the price movement because that has multiple factors, but keeping the price aside, but in terms of the activity, developer activity, and all of that is available in public domain, you can see. And all the data points signifies that the activity, right, the infrastructure level or people building is actually rising, which gives me a lot of confidence that we will see a lot more exciting companies in the years to come.
All right. And, very quickly, what's your advice for emerging startups in the blockchain space? What can they learn from you?
Yeah, I think one thing is important. This is, challenging space, volatile space, but highly, highly disruptive, right? This is the future. And if you are building, if you're solving for it, it's very important, and something that we always follow in the company, that do not have a short-term view, have a long-term view and build it for the long term, and not build it for 1 year, 2 years. Do not build it for the hype. Do not get into it for the hype. Build it if you see a fundamental value. Invest if you see a fundamental value in that, and not just because of price appreciation. If you're doing a business, don't build it because there's capital. Build it for the long term. I think that is one way where your probability of success is going to increase exponentially if you just have this rule in mind.
All right. Sumit Gupta, CEO and co-founder of CoinDCX, thank you so very much for your thoughts today. I think my big takeaway is, of course, build, if you believe in it, build to last and build for everyone, I would say.
Yes, thank you so much, Miloni. It was great talking to you today.